Welcome back to the Stay Introverted Podcast, everyone. I am your co-host, Jay Coleman.
And I am your other co-host, Steph Laffey.
And as always, we want to thank you for joining us on this podcasting journey. We both definitely appreciate it. But Steph, it's been a week, hasn't it?
It has been a week. Like a week. like in case you're not understanding, like it has been a freaking crazy week.
Yeah.
my,
So
my brain hurts.
yeah. So if well, I don't know how many of you would know, but so Steph and I met for the first time in person at our co-working event in New York City. It was awesome.
It was. We had so much fun. And even before we met at the event, like we had lunch together on
Mhm.
last Saturday. Um, and we're definitely gonna like recap like lunch and the event and but before we even get to that, why
Mhm.
don't we tell them what happened for both of us after the event? Because it like that was just the start. That was just the beginning.
Okay. So I'll go first. So the event itself, which we'll get into, was a co-working event, and that was pretty much for the better part of the day. But after that event, I had to get in my car and then drive back home, which for me is in Massachusetts. So I had to drive for about 3.5 hours in the dark because apparently once you leave New York City, they don't believe in like lights on the highway. So it's just that was fun. Um,
Oh God.
yeah, then it started raining and then it started snowing as I
Oh my
got
God.
like towards the end of Connecticut. So trying to navigate snow in the dark on a highway, that was not fun. But I made it
Good
home.
times.
Yeah, good times. Made it home and then had to turn right back around the next day and fly out for business for my day job. Went out to St. Louis, Missouri. So having to fly out and then meet, my coworkers and do work and all that other not so fun stuff, socializing, going out. I was drained by the time I got back home, which was yesterday. So happy to be home, still trying to recoup, but yeah, this is not I don't know how people are like traveling salesmen and like traveling
No.
business people. Like I did it for a week and I'm good.
Yeah, no, it's not for me. I remember, and I'll get into my week in just a second, but I remember when my boss, when I first started my new role, he was like, "Oh, so like, how do you feel about traveling all over the United States, Mexico, and Canada?" I'm like, "Is that part of the job description? Did I miss
Mhm.
did I miss that?" Um, because he was like I was like, "What? Like, I don't travel. Like, I don't do airports. I can't drive. Like, if you need me once in a while in a pinch, like, sure, but I, I don't know if this is gonna work out." He's like, "No, no, no. We'll keep you in the office." I'm like, "Okay, thank God." You just gave me a heart attack and a stroke at the same time. Um, like that was no, I don't travel well, and we'll get into that. Why at some point, maybe in this episode or in a future one. But anywho, yeah, so that sounds like a crazy week, especially the drive home, like right after such a big day of peopling. Although I would imagine it was probably kind of peaceful.
Yeah, hopefully. I gotta do some catching up and some chores
Yeah,
today. And then also,
right, right,
still try to get this, work on my personal business. But yeah, for the
right.
most part, I'm just happy to finally
Mm,
be home for a couple of days. Real quick,
right.
when I was leaving to go to St. Louis, I was traveling with my boss. Him and I were on the same flight. I actually got to the airport I live fairly close to the airport.
Okay.
So I was able to get there, hour and a half before our flight left. I didn't realize that he lives like on I guess the border of Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So it's a good
Okay.
like hour and a half away from the airport, but he was stuck in traffic and like I think he got onto the plane with like 5 minutes to spare.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
me. That's how I do at the airport. That's probably why I hate the airport because I am last minute and late, chronically late to everything. So, like, one of my New Year's resolutions actually is to stop doing that and like actually like give myself time at the airport so I'm not so frazzled.
Yeah.
Will I do it? I doubt it, but
Yeah.
it's a nice thought.
Yeah. As you say, it's a thought that counts.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I will say the last couple of times that I did go to the airport like earlier with time to spare, I had a much better experience.
Yeah.
Um, but I take a while to actually go from knowing something to making it a habit. And by a while, I mean like years. So it might be some time. Um, but anywho, after Monday. So we had our lunch on Saturday together, which was
Hmm.
wonderful. Then I had lunch with my girlfriends on Sunday. Then we had the event for like 5, 6 hours on Monday, which was a lot of peopling. Met lots of amazing people, but it was a lot of peopling and, introducing myself, which was always fun. Um, it was exciting and we met some great people, but it was just a lot. And then Tuesday, my boss was in town from Luxembourg
Mm.
overseas. So I had to go to the office, which normally like after a networking event like as big as Tuesdays, I would definitely have worked from home. But my boss is in town, so went to the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Um, we had a big dinner on Tuesday night with my boss. Then on Wednesday, she wanted to do a big happy hour. So I'm not good at organizing things for other people because I don't like to let people feel left out.
Hmm.
So that was a whole thing. The way that I organize happy hours when I'm the one in charge of it is I invite the 10 people that are either in my brain that day or that I can physically see if I'm in the office sending out the invite or that I've had a conversation with in the last couple hours. Um, and my plan with that is I say, I'm inviting you 10 people, you spread the word. This is the most I can handle doing is I can put together the Outlook invite and come up with the location, and you guys can just spread the word. And when I see how many people we have, then I'll make a reservation at a place. Uh, Probably not the best way to go about planning a happy hour, but that's what I did, and it ended up being a blast.
Huh.
Um, I think we had like 50 people show up or something. Which was wild because I came up with the idea to have the happy hour like 2 days earlier. Um, and it's like February, which is crazy. So that was Wednesday. Then Thursday I had to go back to work and have some really intense meetings. And so by the time I got home last night, like I just could not function.
Oh, wow.
Um, it was a lot. It was just a lot of like conversations and people, and I love conversations. And then on top of all of this, in the middle of all of this, I recorded 2 episodes of my other podcast. We released one of our biggest podcast episodes to date this week. So it's just
Mhm.
a big, heavy wild week. And I know to some people who like go out all the time, you're like, what, where was the wild part? Like this was wild, okay?
For us, it's wild. Okay.
This was like this was just too wild. I don't know how people do it.
Exactly. It's I'm looking forward to not talking for the next couple of days. I will say that.
Right.
It's just
Oh, so that's why you were like, okay, like let's just do the episode on Friday because I need like 3 days once I turn off.
exactly. I always have a plan.
That's a good plan. I'm actually recording an episode of the Human AF podcast with Steph tonight.
Nice.
And I'm like, she's like, do you want to do it Saturday? I'm like, nope. Because I have lunch, I mean dinner planned tomorrow night, and I need 24 hours of just like staring at a wall. I
So
gotta
tell us, how
reset.
many podcasts do you have going?
3. That's it. That's it.
That's
Like
it.
that's it. If anybody else wants to do a podcast, you can put your name on the wait list, and that will maybe talk about it in 5 years. 3, I think 3 is a good number. It's a nice round number. It gets to showcase like all the different parts of my personality,
Okay.
but it's not like an extreme number. Like I can handle 3, especially because the other 2, the episodes are only 20, 30 minutes each, and they actually are.
Nice.
Not like us, who said they were going to be 30 minutes and ended up doing over an hour. But yeah, for me, podcasting is therapy. Like I was joking around at the networking event, which was for podcasters, that's my toxic trait is I don't have a therapist. I just have 3 podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, and I let my problems just and ideas and thoughts and feelings just, you know, marinate on the internet, and that's just what I do.
Well, I mean, it if it helps, it helps, you know.
Exactly. It really is, and I have to say, I don't know about you, but like having this podcast has made me so much more confident.
Uh-oh.
Like I think that you have said before that you already had the confidence, and that's why doing a podcast felt like a good next step for you.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the confidence before making a podcast. Like it's coming up now.
Yeah, well, I think a little bit. I think over the last year or so, I've slowly built like the confidence to share more about myself and take the steps towards executing certain ideas that I've had. And I think, yeah, I think this podcast is definitely one of those next steps. But
Hmm.
it is, I'm finding very therapeutic for myself. It's good being able to talk things out and yeah, just be able to share my thoughts with anyone who may be listening. So definitely, I never thought that I'd be one of these podcasters. If you would have told me even earlier last year, that I have
Right.
a podcast now, I would not have believed you.
Hmm.
But here we are.
I love it. Yeah, I used to hate the sound of my voice, and by used to, I mean like 18 months ago. Um, so the fact that like not only do I have one podcast, I have 3, is just absolutely mind-boggling. Like when I used to get phone calls at work, I would run into another room and like hide because I thought that my voice sounded so weird and that like everybody and their mother that was in the office felt like it was nails on a chalkboard to have to listen to me. Like I was very insecure about my voice. And I think my voice is cute. Like I think it's fine. I love it now. But for so long, I hated the sound of my own voice. Um, and so it's so wild to me that here I am, not only, like I said, with 3 podcasts in the works, but also hosting a podcasting event to get to know fellow podcasters and potentially be on their podcast is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, that was, I would say as busy and as hectic as it was definitely a lot of fun. I think we both got to meet a lot of cool people. I'm looking forward to having um, several of them on here on the podcast and in the future. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like, we've said this offline, but as much as we talk about not socializing or not wanting to be around too many people, it is important for introverts to have some sense of community. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of people, but we do need a community of of people to kind of just have people have as sounding boards or people to bounce ideas off of, or just to actually get you out of out of the house and go out and mingle. So it definitely is important.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like I think that what people forget, I think that a lot of people when they think about introverts and they're surprised that like, oh, I can't believe you're introverted and like you're having a networking event or oh, I can't believe you're introverted and you have a podcast. I'm like, introvert is not a synonym for antisocial. Like, I don't know what you think introversion means, but like introverts are people, believe it or not. Like we are human beings before we are introverts. And as human beings, we are social creatures. So, like, what do you say to people when they say, "Oh, like I thought you were an introvert. You're having a networking event," or "Oh, I can't believe you have a podcast." Like, how do you respond to that?
I simply asked them, like, what do you think an introvert is? Because
Mm-hmm.
clearly we're working with a different definition.
Right. That's a good answer. I like that. Yeah, like we don't bite. We're not like, we there's so much more to being an introvert than like I think that being awkward or uncomfortable or not wanting to be around people is sort of a byproduct of being an introvert. It's more of a symptom rather than like a trait. Not even a symptom, but more of like it's you see it more in introverts because of how we are, but it's not necessarily a trait of introverts.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, like, it's kind of how we said before. I think society really just has this idea, I guess, of what introverts are, and unfortunately, there's none too positive. It's like, um, we just like don't have the ability, not even the desire, but just don't have the ability to socialize or to network or to talk. It's just it gets weird because you actually when you have a discussion with someone who believes, I guess, these stereotypes and these myths about introverts, it's an interesting discussion because it's like, wow, that's what you actually think.
It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, like it's 2024. We have Google and Wikipedia and all of this, and like you have the tools and the access, and this is what you believe. Okay. Well,
Right. Like I was on a podcast not too long ago. Um, and they recruited me to be on the podcast and they asked me, you don't you shouldn't call yourself an introvert. Like you should like that's like self-deprecating. And I was like,
mhm.
excuse me? Like what? And I don't mean to call this person out, like they just didn't know. And I'm not even gonna say what podcast it was or whatever. She was super nice. But I was just like, um, it's not self-deprecating. Like it's a superpower. I love being introverted. Um, and we ended up like getting into the definition of introversion, and she's like, I never knew this. Like, I'm so sorry that I even said that, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was fine, whatever. But, and I don't fault her because a lot of people have that same viewpoint that it's like a negative or a bad thing. I'm like, no, it just means that we draw our energy, our inspiration, our interest from within, rather than from the energy of other people or the situation. Like it it comes from within us. And I think that is so freaking cool. That's something to celebrate because how many people, how many extroverts struggle to feel inspired or motivated, like just being on their own. Like I think that a lot of extroverts, from what I understand, if they weren't surrounded by people or weren't privy to a lot of situations, they would feel almost stripped of their ability to like, do all the things and live their best life and accomplish things.
Let's call it what it is. They would lose their shit. They would
A
they
what?
would they would lose their shit. They wouldn't know how to function.
Yeah, yeah,
And we saw some of that.
exactly.
We saw some of that in the early days and months of the pandemic when everyone had to be around each other
Right.
and couldn't go out. And all these extroverts lost their damn minds
Right.
until they
Exactly.
realized that they were home with their introverts, and then they decided to talk to the introverts forever, and then we lost them. It's just-
Exactly. Well, I mean, that like I think the whole reason that TikTok blew up was because extroverts were like, well, what am I gonna do? Like,
Mhm.
I need to like I need to go crazy. My hair's on fire. Um, but yeah, I mean, I actually so before the pandemic, I didn't know if I was an extrovert or an introvert. Um, but I actually had sort of an extroverted reaction to the pandemic.
Mhm.
But so for a while, I definitely was like, "Oh, I'm an extrovert," and all my friends were like, "No, you're fucking not. Like, what are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, I'm having a very hard time dealing with the lockdowns and the pandemic and not being able to see people and being locked in my house. Like, that's a very extroverted thing to say." And they were like, no, 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 you just struggle with having your routine messed up, but that doesn't mean you're an extrovert. So I'm definitely guilty of like not understanding what introvert or extrovert means. But I think that now that I know, I don't know where I was going with this, but it's nice to know that I am in fact an introvert. I'm very much an introvert. And not only is it nice to know that I am, I love the fact that like I see it as a beautiful thing and I feel so at peace with myself now that I'm aware that I'm an introvert and that that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. And going back real quick to um, having people try to tell us who we are and trying to define what introverts are, um, it can definitely get interesting. I had a person, this is one of these a time where I asked this person, what do you think an introvert is? And she proceeded to tell me a bunch of, you know, stereotypical qualities. But then she was also saying, and introverts are self-defecating. And I'm like, excuse me now? What was that? And like I know what she was trying to say, but she ended up saying it again. She's like, yeah, introverts are like self-defecating. I'm like, so we shit on ourselves? Really? That's I'm like, no, I don't recall that quality shared by introverts. Um,
Wow,
yes, did you
that's
perhaps
a great response.
yeah. Did you by any means perhaps means self-deprecating. And she was like, yeah, yeah, that's what I meant. I'm like, okay, yeah. See,
Oh my
introverts,
God.
yeah, see, we take our time and we think before we speak to make sure that we have the right words. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, yeah, that is one of the things that we're known for. We can go overboard and overthink, but
Hmm.
um we are I'm gonna this is one of the few times I will speak for all introverts and say that we are not self-deprecating. Um,
As far as we know.
as far as I know, even if a couple are, I'm just gonna say we're not because that just
Right.
yeah
That's like the exception, not the rule. Like maybe there are some self-defecating infant introverts
yeah.
that don't know that they are an introvert just yet.
But this is again, this is who why we are how we are. We don't just feel the need to just talk and talk and end up not really understanding the words that we're using because words have meaning. And it's very
Right.
important. It's very important to we keep that in mind. That words mean things.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
yeah, so this is we're about to go on like an even deeper tangent from where we were at, but I feel like you know what, sometimes we need just an episode of tangent. So why not? And then we will eventually circle back to the event because I do want to touch on it. Um, but I was having a conversation with Sean. Maybe my brain was like really scrambled from this crazy week. Or but it was a really interesting conversation. We were taking a walk with Meatball, um, and we were on the way back from the dog park. I want to say like Thursday maybe or Wednesday. What day is it? Who knows? Um, it was at some point in the midst of this insane week. We were just talking about Meatball and how he spends so much time at the dog park not playing with other dogs. He spends all of his time wanting to get petted by other, like by human beings. And I was like, I think Meatball might be an extrovert. We were like having this whole conversation. He's like, I don't think the animals can be introverted or extroverted. I'm like, yes, they can. Like, he is definitely an extrovert. His personality, he loves being around other people. He's miserable when we're not home. He can't deal with being by himself. And I am convinced that my dog is an extrovert. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Am I humanizing him too much, or what is going on here? I think that animals can be introverted or extroverted because they have personalities.
Well, first though, shout out to Meatball, who is a friend of the show. So,
And you met him.
and I did meet Meatball. He's awesome, and Steph is absolutely correct. He does love to be petted by everybody. Like, and he will literally back up if like if you miss your hand, he'll back up and make sure that he gets every ounce of petting that's coming his way.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think maybe we're humanizing the qualities, but yeah, I think animals can be introverted or extroverted because you see it. You see there are some, um, particularly amongst dogs, like there are
Mhm.
a lot of dogs who are shy, around
Right.
around other dogs and around humans, and then there are those who are not. So
Right.
like I don't know what else you would. I don't know what the term is for the dog world, but but yeah, that's kind of I do think animals can be introverted or extroverted, social or less social, whatever you want to call it. That's definitely
Right. Yeah, like my parents' dog who R.I.P. Mickey, he just passed away. I would definitely say he was more of an introvert and like I don't know, I might be thinking too much into it because, I am an introvert. Uh,
Mhm.
but like I definitely think that like Meatball is the poster child for an extroverted dog. Like we say that he walks around the Upper West Side like collecting engagement from
Mhm.
humans. Like he's like, I got 8 smiles on this walk and 12 pets, and like he's like so proud of himself.
So, meatball is the algorithm. Got it.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Like like you said, like he cannot handle if he misses a pet or like somebody like talking to him, like he will back his ass up and like you better wait for him. Um, all right, I guess we should probably touch on the event
I
briefly.
guess. So yeah,
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. No, it was so much fun. Like it was so cool getting to know people in New York City. When I first approached Ben at Tavern, which I believe that'll be the episode after this one,
Mhm.
finally.
Mhm.
Um he was like, "Is there like a big crowd of podcasters in New York City?" I'm like, I would think so. There's like, I think 500,000 podcasts out there and more coming every day.
Mhm.
And New York City is one of the most like densely populated cities in the world. So I would imagine there's got to be at least a handful.
Yeah.
And we had, I would say, about 30 people show up at the event, which was so cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
I think most of them had or were in the process of starting their own podcast.
yeah. And some of them are definitely going to be coming on. I noticed that what was interesting is I don't know if it was because we are the Stay Introverted podcast or if it was just a coincidence, but a lot of our guests at the event mentioned that they were introverts, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I did notice that. Which again, speaks to what introverts can and cannot do. I'm curious to see
Hmm.
how many. It'd be interesting to find out like how many podcasters are actually introverted. Because in a way, I think podcasting is actually, or rather, introverts are kind of uniquely suited to be in the podcasting space because they're able to kind of just talk.
Right.
We don't have to have a camera, and we can kind of control that entire space, and not have to worry about sounding weird or you know saying too much or whatever.
Absolutely. And I mean, they're just such a different energy. I can actually pick up usually just from listening to 5 minutes of a podcast. I can pick up whether the host is an introvert or an extrovert. It's just such a different energy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like if I send you like the quintessential extroverted podcaster that's on my mind, Taylor Strecker, one
Hmm.
of my favorite big, she's a big host, but she is like
Hmm.
as extroverted as it gets, and that you can hear it the second she starts talking. And it's a great podcast. It's just it's such a different energy from than what we have going on here.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you have a podcast, we'd love to know, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Um, but what were some of the conversations that you had at the event?
So I actually um met a gentleman named Joseph who we're actually going to have hopefully on the podcast soon. But he would
Was
be
he the guy in the Squidward shirt
um
or was that Mike?
that might have been Mike. He was the one in the suit, well, I guess it kind of like the gray suit. Um,
Mm, okay.
but
Oh, Joseph. Yeah,
Joseph,
I
yes.
invite. Hello, duh. I love you, Joseph, if you're listening. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just had such a brain fart. Okay, Joseph, I adore him.
Yes, we're hopefully gonna have him on, and hopefully we'll be on his podcast soon.
Yeah.
But we talked about just kind of how to actually market a podcast, which is something that definitely affects us.
Mm-hmm.
We talked. I met a couple other people and just kind of um talk about how just how to take those first steps into
Mm-hmm.
podcasting, and then like what do you talk about, and does it make sense to like make up something or talk something or talk about something that's more of your strength. I think there were a couple of people there who really love music and were trying
Mm-hmm.
to create a podcast around it, but they didn't really know how to approach it. And I
Oh,
was
are
just
you thinking of Will?
Will, he was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are quite a few who like music and wanted to have a podcast that touched on music in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was just like, there's really no wrong way to approach it. You just gotta just be genuine and be yourself.
Right.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and
There was a woman who I loved what she was talking about. She's like a CPA, or she's not a CPA, sorry, but she's an accountant. And she does 5 to 10 minute episodes just breaking down basic accounting principles. And I forgetting the name, but she like I asked her a question and she almost like went into podcasting mode like on the spot and like gave me a 5 minute rundown. I'm like, holy shit, like I need to listen to this because I don't understand accounting at all. That's so cool. We
it was
definitely have to have Will on.
definitely, yeah, it was a very fun event. I like the location. With a
Yeah.
Mochi Dosi. I like the fact that there's like a secret room in the back.
Hmm.
That was cool. That was definitely cool. And
Yeah.
you have to like go through the phone booth to get to the back room. So that was awesome.
That is so cool. I'm actually going to another follow-up event, I believe on February 12th. So if anybody's in New York City and you are a comedian or you think you're funny like me, um, definitely check that one out. It's on Monday the 12th. It's for comedians and people who like comedy. So my friend Danielle at uh Jewish Doodles. Well, we'll look up all this info and try to put it in the show notes. But she is a comedian in New York City and she'll be hosting the event. So she was at our event at Moki Dolce. And I'll be going to her event because like I said, I think I'm funny. But I want to meet other people in New York City who are actually funny because there's nothing better than finding people who make you laugh.
Definitely.
See, I'm funny. You're laughing.
Yes.
Sean always says, he's laughing at me. I'm like,
Oh
you're so
boy.
mean. Um, but yeah, it was such a cool location. We met so many cool people. I'm trying to think who else. There was the girl Jessica who is a yogi and she has a podcast about like purpose and finding inner peace. Super
Hmm.
excited to check that one out. Um,
Sam
so many good
Sam was
ones.
there. We had Sam on the show.
Sam.
Yeah. Shout out
Yeah,
to Sam
her
Paul.
so yeah, Sam Fall. She's like my new bestie. We are definitely gonna be getting lunch in the city at some point. We just we hit it off the second she came on the podcast, and you guys will hear her episode soon, and you'll be just as obsessed with it. But the second she walked into the event, like I feel like we were glued at the hip.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think she stayed for like the happy hour, and there's
Yeah,
pictures of her like singing and stuff. So that was pretty awesome.
yeah. We did not stay for that happy hour. We were both like way too peopled out, and you had
Yeah,
to get on the road.
yeah.
Um,
I heard it was fun. It was again, it was definitely a good time. Happy that both of us were able to do this. It was, like I said, definitely fun.
yeah. I would say a year ago, yeah, probably a year ago, because at the last tavern event that I hosted, it was the first one. I wasn't really emotionally ready to like handle the pressure of like having an event. I did it anyway. I'm so proud of myself. But I only lasted about 2 hours that time, 2.5 hours. And it was a smaller event, so it kind of naturally ended a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
But the fact that I was able to stay out for 5 hours and like I don't think I sat down or stopped talking the entire time. I was so proud of myself for that. So, little pat on the back.
Yeah, yeah. I think uh, exactly what it is. Like for me to be, out 5, 6, 7 hours talking to people in Manhattan, the whole place is, it's the probably the most like active of the boroughs. It's a big deal, and even some of the feedback that we've gotten from our community is saying just that. Um, yeah, it's really big for us.
It was really cool. Did you end up feeling like, oh my God, did you have any point during the event where you were like, I need to get out of here, but like you were able to power through it? Or like any point where you're like, my battery is on empty?
I mean, there was a point where I did feel I need to get out of here, but I powered through it. That was probably like right after I first stepped in to the building.
Okay,
So, but that's just kind of how it is. Like
right.
you just, I don't know. Um, can't really describe it, but yeah, I felt like a couple of times
Hmm.
that um it's kind of overwhelming, but you just
Yeah,
power through, and I'm glad I did because I think we made some long-term connections, and
right.
it was an opportunity to grow, and to actually put myself out there, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's huge. So I had a moment where I went into like, I have to get out of here for a second because it was packed. Like it got packed so fast, which is so cool. I can't say that enough.
Hmm.
But it was so packed. I was like sweating. It's like, oh my God. So I I went outside and just ran to Dwayne Reed for like 5 minutes, which is for those of you who are not in New York City, that's like our Walgreens. They have more Dwayne Reed than Starbucks, I would say. It's wild. So I knew there was a Dwayne Reed on the corner because I used to live on the street that we were on. Now I live about 6 blocks away. Um, but I ran to Dwayne Reed just to like get some fresh air and like just reset for 5 minutes in private. So that's a little tip if anybody ever just feels like super overwhelmed. But then I went back and I was able to like function for the rest of the day.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Dwayne Reed. They're awesome.
Hmm.
I do
Wait,
miss.
shout out to Ben and Amelia. Yeah, they're
Well,
they're dope.
shout out to Ben and Amelia, but also shout out to Dwayne Reed because I do. It's been years since I've been to a Dwayne Reed.
Oh, Dwayne Reed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, wow, yeah. For me, if did a day actually occur if I didn't set foot in a Dwayne Reed at least once? And the answer is no. Um, I'm there probably twice a day on average. It's just something to do, which
Yeah.
I know is
Yeah.
like especially when it's really cold out and like I'm trying to get my steps in. I'm like, where am I gonna go? Up Dwayne Reed is 1,500 steps away, so that's like 3,000 steps. And I'm at 7,000, so I'm just gonna go to Dwayne Reed, walk around the aisle, see what's new, which is nothing, and call it a
Yeah.
day. Um, but yeah, back to Ben and Amelia. I have to give you guys kudos. And Amelia, we have to get you on too. I absolutely adore you. It was so nice to meet you. And I'm talking to her like she's the sole listener. I'll send her this clip. Um, but Amelia, we have to get you on the podcast. You guys our listeners are gonna love our episode with Ben, but like you have to get to know Amelia, the chief marketing officer of Tavern Community, because she is just such a pleasure to talk to. But I have to give you guys a shout out because the format of the event was so cool. Like I loved how they had in the beginning it was just like mingling, and then they had everybody went around and got to introduce themselves. And then they did this time, but I haven't seen them do it at other events where they had everybody switch up who you were currently sitting with. And I thought that was so cool.
Yes, most definitely.
Um, yeah, we had such a blast. It would be an honor and a privilege to be able to host another event with Tavern again in the future.
Hmm.
And I really hope that, we get to, because like we've been saying, we've met so many cool people through this, and you guys will definitely get to hear from them on our podcast, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to be on some of theirs as well.
Hmm. Plus, we managed to give away, or not managed to, we gave away some cool merch from my shop,
Mm-hmm.
which we had six lucky winners who were all very appreciative of of the shirt. So that was fun. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have they been tagging you?
Not yet, but hopefully they will. I'll be able to shout them out.
Oops, I had the hiccups. Yeah, that was so awesome, and thank you for pulling that together. Eventually we will have our merch. Did the merch get there, by the way?
Oh yeah, finally got here.
How does it look?
It looks pretty. It looks awesome. I wish we wish they would have delivered it when they said they were going to, but it is what it
Oh
is.
well.
You know.
Oh well. What are you gonna
Yeah.
do? See, that's why I'm not an extrovert, because like I only want to be able to rely on myself.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I can't wait to see it and check that out. But before we wrap it up, I do also want to say a quick thank you to Alex Garrett, who did something really cool that inspired me that next time we're together in person, I just want to take a leaf out of his book. Um, Alex Garrett is a podcaster that I have known for many years, the creator of the One Leg Up podcast. And I know him from when I interned at the Joe Piscopo radio show when I was 19 and 20 years old. And we've stayed in touch. He's a friend of my dad's. He's just one of the most inspiring people ever. Um, and you'll definitely want to check out his podcast to hear more about his story. But he interviewed us on the spot at the event. He interviewed us and Ben, who is the CEO of Tavern.
Hmm.
And I just thought that that was so cool how we put it together. And you could definitely hear the noise of the event in the background, but I thought that that actually added to it.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was fantastic. And I definitely want to take a leaf out of his back book and try that out.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool. And I do think being in the middle of everything that was going on kind of adds to it. Because it just shows you just how much energy was in the building.
Yeah. So that was super cool. Thank you, Alex, for like for featuring us on. That was, how did you feel like just jumping into an interview on the spot? Because I never thought in a million years that I would have the confidence to like not mentally prepare myself. And I thought we killed it.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking at first, but I think once I kind of settled down, it was easier to answer the questions. Yeah, it's different because you're used to doing interviews, more sit down style. That definitely
Right.
in a quieter setting, but I think after the initial shock, it was kind of like any other interview.
Right. Because it's not like we know what they're gonna ask.
Mhm.
Um, I thought it was so cool the way that he narrated the episode. Like he was like, I'm currently at this then, and now I'm gonna go talk to Ben. And then they had like a quick exchange, and then he narrated again, and then he interviewed us. So I thought that was fabulous. Um, so thank you, Alex, for not only showing up for me, but for putting that episode together and getting it out so quickly. So we'll definitely have to link that in the show notes.
Yes, most definitely.
Um, cool. So I guess we should wrap it up because I should probably get back to work.
I'm off today, but Steph has to go to work, so we don't want her getting in trouble. So
Yeah, exactly.
again, we thank you to Amelia, Ben, Tavern community, everyone that came out. Um, we had a blast. Definitely wanted to do something similar like that in the future. Um, hope you like this episode. A lot of tangents, but that's what we do. That's what we do. So if you like the tangents, definitely like, rate, review. Show us some love. Definitely follow us on Instagram at Stay Introverted Podcast.
And
And,
Threads.
huh?
And Threads. Follow us
And
on
Threads.
Threads.
Follow
Although
Threads.
I've been really bad about putting content up there, so
It's
I'll
all right.
try.
But we're on Threads as well. Follow us there. And yeah, stay introverted, and we will catch you next time. Steph, you want to say about it to the people?
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for listening to the Stay Introverted podcast. We are here every week on Tuesday mornings on all of the platforms, although Radio Public just disappeared.
Yeah,
So
they're going bye-bye.
yeah, they're going bye-bye. So we're not on there anymore. Which is okay. But we are on all the other platforms. Sorry if
All the
you
platforms that are still here.
that are still here, exactly. And be sure to like us, rate us, and review us. And before I let you go, please, if you love the episode and like you're sharing it on Instagram, like, and we absolutely love you, please, from the bottom of our hearts, please give us a rating and a review. Even if you just put an emoji, it helps us get in front of other listeners who need to hear the thoughts that we have and the tangents that we share, but also the brilliant ideas of our wonderful guests. So if you like it, please do us a solid and give us a review. As one of my podcast inspirational people likes to say, giving a rating and review is like giving a tip to your bartender or barista. So we appreciate it. And yeah, stay introverted.
Stay introverted, y'all. We'll catch you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.